Okay, great. Okay, so for the fellow attendees, thank you so much for making or sacrificing your Saturday. I know Saturdays and weekends now. Furthermore, this is a long weekend. In many ways, that a lot of educators or even teachers that you are looking forward to, because it's to take a break from the screen fatigue or online fatigue that we have been doing and all the while. And also, I would like to thank the organizing committee for aMS Southeast Asia 2021 for inviting me to speak on this event. I understand there was a lot of speakers, and I'm truly blessed and honored to be shortlisted to share the programs, my presentation with all of you today. So, and I think this is my very first time that I'm speaking in a conference that majority of the attendees, or the nature of the conference, is not an education or higher education focused conference, but it's very a technology conference. But I have to also applaud aMS organizing committee to have a forethought of looking beyond, rather than just talking among the technologies and all that. It's good to really look at now the understanding the gaps of what the education and higher education industry that we are lacking, or and you are bringing the gap. So I applaud everybody for doing this and all that. Okay, now I'm not going to read word by title, but I promise my presentation, I want to do it within 30 minutes or 35 minutes or so. And then what we will do is I will give a lot of opportunities for question and answers. And if you have anything along the line, feel free to ask. That we'll be happy to answer for you and all that. So for a shameless plug a bit, so just let me introduce to you, for if you are outside of Malaysia or even outside of Klang Valley, you want to know where is MCKL. This is just a very quick snapshot of where MCKL is. We are actually in the heart of KL, and you can see amidst all the corporate buildings and on high skyscrapers, we are just on one ground on the left-hand side there, and we are 10 minutes away from KL Central, which is KL's main transit hub. That's where, if you are coming into Malaysia for foreign delegates, you will come in, and if you take the train directly to the city, that's the transit hub, and we're just 10 minutes walk away. On the same time, we have a public transportation, a monorail station just in front of our doorstep. So a lot of our students, they take public transportation, and by the time they arrive at the station, they can just walk into the campus and all that. So just a quick history. I'm not going to really talk a lot about it. We have actually started the college, or MCKL. It's a higher education provider, but initially our starting was very much as a school, because based on the alignment of the Methodist Church, therefore we started as a school, second chance, and then as the school grows and grew, and now we became a full-fledged college. And right now our aim is to become a university eventually. It's a long way. It's going to be a long way, but we are excited with the whole journey, because it's not an easy path to eventually achieve or attain a university status. So this is just quickly a brief history about MCKL. So I'm not going to go really to promote our courses and everything, but these are the spectrum of academic programs that we are offering. From pre-university, we have degree, and we have our diploma programs or diploma courses, and the new diploma programs that we are launching, or we have launched. Computer science, which is related to data science, IT, Internet of Things, e-commerce, digital marketing, and I think we are now in the final process of finance technology, or we call it fintech. We are also a provider for accounting programs with ACCA, and we also provide continuous professional development for programs for teachers and educators through our CIE Professional Development Center, and all the list of short courses there along the line. Okay, so maybe I will just bring a bit of flashback back to where we were in the old normal. This is how we are looking at, or we have seen the campus in those days before the lockdown pandemic. Everybody sits together next to each other, and then free to mingle, no face mask required, or no social distancing required. But I think the last 2 years, I've been back to the office. I'm happy that the last I think 3 weeks we have been back to office on a rotation basis, to actually just to manage the risks, in the campus and all that. We are currently undertaking the lessons virtual, although the government has allowed higher education institutions to operate in a hybrid mode, but that is where my core presentation and sharing today. So because we are very lucky that we just finished a series of trainings, in-house trainings for our staff, and we undertook that through hybrid approach, and we found a couple of things. So I'm just going to share with you what are the tips and tricks and secrets that you want to know what worked and what did not work and all that. We will be having a new campus soon in Penang in January 2022. So these pictures are already a bit outdated because at that point of time, the pictures was taken earlier when the construction was finished. The building is there, but it's an old formerly an old school. So we have to retrofit and refurbish it, do some slight renovation to become a higher education institution. So we are operating it hopefully by January 2022 once all the approvals have been obtained accordingly. So I'm going to start the presentation today by just sharing a few reflective questions, for everybody, because in many cases when I attend conferences, it's just attending, listen, and all that. But I just want to bring you while my presentation is happening. Perhaps maybe you can keep these questions in mind. So I'm just going to share a bit what are the emerging trends of higher education beyond the pandemic or endemic. Because when I was asking, or when I submitted my session, I just ended the word pandemic. But I thought now in Malaysia, particularly, we are going towards the endemic situation. We are now in the endemic, meaning to say we are living with the virus. So therefore, what are we looking at, and what are the trends and all that? For the developers, if any of the technologies or whether it's business or software or IT, etc., developers, I think that's why I say I'm very happy that because when you talk to share your experience or journey in a conference that is not academic, you can find out what are the gaps that we are facing. And I hope through this presentation, you'll be able to understand, maybe if you want to share or build systems or applications for educators, you need to understand our gap first. So I thought one of the questions that I would like to direct to you as well. So perhaps maybe you can listen what are the gaps as I go along. And for education, for educators, I will just share a bit about what have we learned from undertaking or implementation of hybrid learning effectively. And this was just like this week. I quickly gather all the findings and I just put it in about 1 or 2 slides just to let everybody know these are the preparation that you may need to do before, during, and after when you want to take hybrid learning or hybrid teaching effectively and all that. So what I'm going to do is, this is my favorite one. I'm just going to set the scene by talking about the knowledge quadrant. So this is the structure that my presentation will be based on. The knowledge quadrant, right, actually classifies knowledge based on 4 elements. And if you look at it, when we know, or when we want to know, or we don't know something, so how knowledge is actually divided and in this case. So for example, first of all, we will be known. Known means you are certain and experienced because you know, or we know, the particular knowledge or matter. Therefore, we are certain and we are experienced in maneuvering around. Then we have the known unknown. We are certain, but we are inexperienced. Okay. Then we have the unknown known, which we are uncertain but experienced. And last but not least, the unknown. Now, which is the uncertain and inexperienced. Now, this is the dimension that I would say, or quadrant, that is very risky. Like, for example, we were uncertain when we go to space and what you're going to experience, and we have never experienced going to space. So this is the whole dimension of how my presentation will factor in along that side. So what I would like to share, and this is nothing that a lot of, when I present in conferences, I share, a lot of people ask me, Adrian, how do you know what is coming? How do you know? And I thought I just want to let you share this, and if you can find it, Google. Every year, I actually take my time to read this report. It is called EDUCAUSE Horizon Report by EDUCAUSE, and EDUCAUSE, I would have to say they are the forefront in many ways. So it's like fashion. You want to know, you want to predict the trend, what is the next color, or even design and everything. So for education, normally I will read Horizon Report because they really classify their reports, and they actually segment their report into very interesting perspectives, and you can eventually read from there and gather what the board actually, or what the board anticipates for the coming year. Normally they present their findings in April. in a way, so you can actually, I think coming soon for next year, they're going to release it in April, and you can read it for free, and and all that. And they classify the trends into three themes: short term, mid term, and far term. Okay, so you can actually read along the side and all that. And I would just want to share a bit on the extract of 2021, because I think when the pandemic or the lockdown happened, what Horizon report actually classified, and it was for the first time, I have to say, since I've read the report in 2002, they really focus on things that is beyond education or higher ed. So, for example, in social, Horizon report actually says that the emergence of remote learning. Right now, what we have done the last 1.5 years or 2 years, it's all about remote learning. We also realized that as a result of remote learning, the implementation of remote learning, therefore, there is a widening of digital divide of how this division goes. Because some students, remember in those days when we started the lockdown, some students have the devices, some students don't, some students have connectivity of internet, some don't have. So this is going to get bigger and bigger, because right now, technically, if you want to do virtual learning or even hybrid learning, you need these such devices. And I'm also very glad that they also touch base on mental health, regardless whether it's for the students and even the educators. So for any educators here, just bear in mind that take it easy, don't get yourself stressed, and if you are stressful, just take it easy and take a step back, relax in many ways. And I know sometimes upper management, they may succumb you to pressure, but just take it easy and take this whole journey or experience as part by part. And that's what I actually share with my team members and all that. Now, for technological, there is going to be a widespread adoption of hybrid learning models. This is true. In MCKL, we are going to go hybrid learning next year, and we are now in the process of already finalizing what we need to do, what we need to buy or purchase or equip our lecturers, and most importantly, training, how to let the lecturers or our lecturers and our colleagues how to do hybrid teaching, hybrid learning, and so on. Then, yes, the usage of learning technologies will still be adopted, despite even we are going to go to the endemic, students coming back. But it's going to be even more increased than ever. So you will find that you will interact with a lot of digital technologies, learning technologies, as to complement and supplement your teaching and learning approaches in institution. And last but not least, for any school leaders here, continue to invest in your staff by actually looking at faculty development. A lot of, and I can share with you the journey of us in MCKL. We have tried our best to let our lecturers, especially from Microsoft, take advantage of the Microsoft Education Center, free modules you can learn, and they get digital certificate, they get digital badges, and some of them, they have, after learning all these courses for free, therefore they start to implement it in the classroom, which I will share later some of the best practices that we have seen in MCKL. For economic, unfortunately, because of uncertainty now, a lot of governments worldwide has started to decrease the funding for higher education. Now, if you are based in a public institution, be ready for this, or even you need to understand that you cannot just, or we can't just ask the government for funding, because it's also a challenge for government to manage their expenditures, and all that. But for private, it's going to get even more challenging because economic models is so uncertain now, and therefore we need to ensure that our business or our institution will continue in as usual, despite in this challenging situation. We also need to understand that our students, that they are coming to us today, is different. And this morning, those of you who came early, I think you may have overheard myself, Junti and Rico, we were just chatting before the conference. How are the workforce, our students are looking at it. It's very different. So we need to not just shift our mindset, but our students might, for the sake of our students, because the way how they see and perceive and understand or even acquire knowledge in many ways, it's very different than what we went through last time. Okay. All right. So now, the first part of it, I'm just going to share a bit on what we know and we were certain and experienced. Okay, so I'm just going to introduce this model called as Diffusion or Innovations Model, and by Rogers. So if you look at it, right, this model is something that I have embraced and eventually embraced in many ways, because it's to understand the profile of, for example, in MCKL, the lecturers, who are the innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. Now, I want to have a caveat here. It doesn't mean that if, let's say, you're a laggard, you are not good, you're not contributing. No, but it's also, as a school leader or as a higher education education leader, we need to know how these people can play a role, and not just their role, but influence the next of it. And what I did basically when I came in MCKL or joined MCKL 2 years ago, that's where I met Chunti, was to understand who are my lecturers that are innovators, because I had a one-to-one interaction with most of them. And I found that some of them, they spoke passionately about, okay, Mr. Adrian, I think I can implement this. I was looking, they come with dreams and all that. And unfortunately or fortunately, the innovators demographic, right, is only 2.5% of the entire population. And it's quite, you need to really understand, because innovators, right, they are quite impatient in a way. If you give them support, they would really can try far and all that. So they look themselves very cool when they adopt certain technologies. So on that, then you have the early adopters. Early adopters are observers of innovators. So they look at how innovators actually thrive, and then after that they will follow. Okay, and once they get their curiosity, definitely they will get the buy-in, and definitely they will follow and all that. Then, in a way, for early majority, that's where the majority of the population, they will look at how agreements are made and how we do things. So they will again step just a bit of steps back, and they will observe how the situation is done. Okay, and then we have the late majority. They don't bother. You just tell me what to do, and I will do it. And last but not least, for laggards, they will believe in what they have done well in the past and currently. So the change management itself, if you're a school leader, change management itself, this is how I have actually practiced. So basically, I'm sharing my secret of how I manage my the lecturers here, because most of them, they really need to know and how to go about, and all that as a challenge as a school leader or institution leader. So what I will continue is, what I did was basically very simple. Once I've identified them, then we will. I've eventually thought that the innovators and the early majorities, that's where they will start to. I empower them. They try. They are champions or enthusiasts, And then I remember at that point, Chunti, after we came back, we started, create a team group, and then all the 5 of them. That's where they started to eventually experiment teams, what to do, how to do, and all that. And that time, for everybody, for info, the teams that we are using today is not like the teams that we have. It was still very preliminary and very basic. So kudos to Microsoft for eventually enhancing and introducing new features and all that. Why it's important for that? Because they act as frontliners or ambassadors or peers, and they have that influential role. It's like when in social media you have your influencers. They can influence their colleagues in many ways, in a good way. Okay, and because of that, we have also created a support system. So if I train 5, and then the 5 will train another 5. So then I got 10, and another 10 I'll get to 20, and so on. So it's a scalable model along the line. So what we did was we have 3 approaches. So we had the Teaching and Learning Committee. Now this is a formal committee. So these are all the 13 appointed members from various academic programs. They will sit down, and they will kind of like we would talk about what are the challenges, issues, situations, what to do, and everything. Then I've got the team adopters. This was the very 5 pioneer members. How to adopt teams and 365 in classrooms and so on. Then I've got another group we started that is only looking at assessments, because these 5 lecturers, they were very passionate about assessments, how to undertake online exams, proctored or non-proctored, invigilated, and so on. So these were the 5 of them, and they came up with kind of like a guideline at the end, how to do online exams and all that. And because of that, we are able to carry out exams, online exams effectively, and so on. So then came to the next quadrant will be unknown. Now, Because MCKL was primarily a very traditional approach that was before the lockdown, and based on my assessment, we were very experienced in our face-to-face teaching, but we were uncertain how to carry out the online learning. Because when I came in, my current CEO, Miss Angela Port, she said that, Adrian, this is your mandate, blah, 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 you know, how to digitize, transform teaching and learning into the next level and all that. So I came in, and that was just before the pandemic started to get serious and so on. Then after that, I remember the last few days or weeks, 2 weeks before we were announced that the lockdown is going to happen, everything just went like so fast, you know, and all that. And what happened was we had no choice, because we are a very small scale institution and we are very humble with our size. Therefore, we were unlike other institutions that had they could afford learning management platforms. You know, I understand from certain institutions they spend millions and millions of ringgit or even dollars to invest in this. But unfortunately, because MCKL was very small, so we had no choice. And I thought through that interaction when I attended with Chunti, Rico, and even Linda and everybody, so that's where I saw the potential of Teams. And eventually after I said, okay, let's jump into the bandwagon, you know, take a deep leap of faith, and let's look at Microsoft Teams as an LMS. And why we did it? Because first of all, we were migrating, in fact, from Google to Windows as the institution operating system. Then we realized that Teams allow collaborative activities, a lot of things that could happen inside and outside the classroom. At that point, face-to-face, the lecturers were still able to use Teams to teach. So what they did was they project Teams as their projection, and the students could have their app downloaded, you know, and they can snap pictures and straight away submit the assignment, and the assignment will be projected in the classroom along that side, along there. It was very robust and stable, and also it was Teams was able to integrate with multiple third-party or even Microsoft applications, especially YouTube, etc., and so on. We found that Teams was also very simple to use, very intuitive. In a way, from training, we did a lot of training, how to introduce these features, how do you collaborate, how do you integrate, and so on. Then it was very fast, and it was also cloud-based, so we don't need to purchase additional servers to host our data and so on. And it's accessible via web and app across multiple electronic devices, because, you know, students and staff, they have devices, preferred devices on their own and everything. So looking back at these pictures are kind of like our flashback, and this was just some of the training sessions we did prior before the pandemic. So what we did was, I think for a 5-day five workday session, we had about each day we had about 2 or 3 sessions to accommodate many lecturers they could attend, because some lecturers they could not attend certain sessions, so we had additional sessions for them to catch up. And we also saw a repeated sessions attendance. So some of the lecturers they don't understand, so they come. So that was basically my mandate, or even my KPI at that point, to measure how many people came and then what's the outcome, and translated and everything along that side there. So one of the things that we learned right after the lockdown, when the lockdown happens, for educators, I think when we design our or whether it's online or even hybrid learning and teaching, we need to understand the interaction. Because one of the things I remember, the first 2 weeks during the lockdown, I was actually did not have really good sleep, because I had to support my the lecturers in terms of how do you do online teaching, how do you do online learning, and some of them they were asking about questions about, you know, specific based questions about features, apps, and also on. So we found that when we design online learning and teaching, it's not just like me now, you know, talking to you in a synchronous mode or asynchronous mode, and then that's it. We need to understand as educators how you contextualize your interaction. You can still bring the interaction across the board in various modalities. So you have the learner content communication. So how you interact, how the students learn with on their own. That means in individual, without any help, without your help, or without your presence, and this is through consumption of text media. So it's a one-way communication, and for example, you know, a lecturer, you assign a text or even watch a YouTube video. That is how the interaction is. Then you have the second modality, which is learner-instructor. like me now. So if I'm the instructor and you are my students or my learners, therefore how we interact across the board. So you'll find that body language is something I know is tangible, but it can become tangible when it comes to virtual teaching or online learning and teaching. So it's very important that when we teach online, we need to influence our learners in how to learn better, motivate them, and perhaps evaluate them, as well as giving feedback. That's very important. And therefore, the students are driven during their process of learning and teaching. It's always driven by us. Then you have the third modality, which is the learner-learner modality. Now, this is where, in higher education institutions, when you create or design assessments or so on, there are activities that they interact among themselves. So like group assignments, you give them a solution or tutorial questions. How do they go about discussing in teams or groups? How do they resolve certain situations? And a lot of lecturers, I would have to say, a lot of them, they forgot about this, because learner-learner is very important, because it's also very valuable and it can be essential resource to learning, because they learn on their own with their peers in a way. And we found that studies have shown that there's a correlation between interaction increases motivation. So if you get a group of members or students, right, they don't have motivation. So learner-learner approach is the best of how to increase the other students, because it's a kind of like a peer influential approaches and all that. And the last but not least, learner interface is a modality where learner interacts with a learning system or platforms. For example, when we design content or we host resources, we share resources to our students, they are all hosted in the platform. The students can just go to the platform, learn independently, and therefore they can also learn from the system itself. The system will dictate in a way that and all that. So I don't know if there are any Microsoft colleagues here, but I think that's my dream. One of my wish lists is if teams can come to this level of learner interface, because it allows features to develop, when you want to release, because it allows the lecturers or even educators to design ahead of time their learning activities and host it and release it at the same time. And all that. So with dates, complexities of how to release, when to see, and everything. So perhaps maybe we can, look at that as one of the most important features and so on. So I'm just going to share two live examples of our team. And I think this may be like normal to all of us already. So what we did is this was some of our two best practices of our lectures. So with the apps of Microsoft Teams and even OneNote, and I think PowerPoint as well, you can see that our lecturers, how the way they actually undertake their changes, their teaching and process. Okay, so I'm just going to go here. All right, now I will not play the whole entire video, but this is just to actually just show you. You can see that what one of our colleagues is doing is basically using OneNote. Because my colleague here, Mr. Yap, he likes to annotate what while he's teaching, because he's teaching maths. So we realized that certain subjects, especially the STEM subjects, they require a lot of annotations. Rather than building up your formulas appearing in PowerPoint, and annotation helps in a way that the students can follow their classes along that line. So we thought having this approach is something that I have to say it helps students in many ways. And then the lecture records their videos. After that, then they host it in Teams, and the students can rewatch their videos again and again if they do not understand certain concepts along that line. Okay, so this is a very live synchronous mode where all the students actually comes to their classes and so on. Then I got another group of lecturers, which this particular lecturer, she designed her lessons in a way that is asynchronous. Because she enjoys, she got the inspiration from being a YouTuber. When you go to YouTube, you see how the way they talk and all that. It's actually a lot of it from Khan Academy, and she got inspired for that. So she designed her videos, she produced her videos and all that. So what I will do is I'll just walk along, and she teaches physics. So what we have seen is, you can see she used real life examples, and her setup was very simple. I understand that using Microsoft PowerPoint, because at that point you can record from video, and then she used just a cloth at the back there, transparent green. I think she bought on her own, and then the lighting, and then while she annotated, she could do it. And you can see, right? It was very impressive, because when I saw the videos for the first time, I was like, how do you do all this? You can create animations in all this to explain physics challenges and everything. And she did it so well that her videos, right, whenever she released new sets of videos, the number of viewers actually viewed that video is very high. You're talking not just like 20s, 30s, it's like even up to hundreds or even thousands in the institution. So the students was very appreciative to say that, okay, you can relate a lot of videos, you can create a lot of videos in this mode, you're just using and all that. Okay, all right. So now, what I would like to talk about next is assessments, because a lot of lecturers have also shared with me, Mr. Adrian, how do we conduct assessments? And again, you don't have paper and pen, you can't have the students to come back to the campus to do exams. So what we did was we piloted assessments in many ways, and we used Teams, and we even used Microsoft Edge as one of our pilot to test out and all that. So one of the things that we did, like for example, this is a real life student's work. Okay, so basically at home, he learned, and then the lecturers assigned their questions, tutorial questions, and so on. Then the students did, and basically he or she snapped the entire work, and then after that the lecturers annotate. Now you may be thinking, okay, wow, the lecturers, like, how did they do it? Or she does it, because when the lecturer annotates this piece, it's actually digital annotation. It's not a red ink annotation. And what he did was they have a device called digital tablet or digital pen, and this digital pen I think was quite affordable, and some of the lecturers I know they bought on their own, and then they invested, and eventually it was so powerful because the students could see now what are the mistakes that they did in their classes and so on. And then not only that, we also realized that some lecturers, rather than doing the paper and pen approach, they actually had their questions, and some of the students, they submitted their solutions or their answers in PDF, and the lecturers were able to annotate it in a way. And the most important thing, it was just not the correct right or wrong answers, but it was the feedback that you see. For example, how do you get this? Or candidates attempted to differentiate expression for so and so after 2 weeks and so on. And I can tell you the results was impressive, because the students actually appreciate the feedback. They could learn better and eventually improve and avoid making mistakes in the future. So this was just basically a device that they invested along that line. It was very affordable, I think less than USD $20. You can actually find in all the major e-commerce platforms and so on. So as a result, that was where I thought, since we have done virtual teaching, and one day I just said, okay, I need to share this with Chunti, and the rest of the team after attending the conference. So one of the things that, because I was quite lucky, I had access to that data. And this basically marks our success of the adoption. So you could see that if you look at it, it was in 2020, the lockdown started. At that point, if you look at the left-hand side there, that is the March 13, our lockdown in Malaysia started in March 18. So that's why suddenly you could see that the usage just went up. Before that, the usage was very low and all that. And weeks after weeks, right, the usage started to increase. And the trend still continues today like this, because we are basically relying on Microsoft 365 and its application, the whole infrastructure, the whole ecosystem, to ensure that we could still continue our teaching and learning. Most importantly, not only that, but our business as usual, with taking everything in place and everything. Okay, so I shared this and then all that, and eventually after that, I never knew that, which we were quite surprised that we even Microsoft approached us to write our success story, and therefore we were featured eventually. So this is new, and we did a survey of last year, or this year in fact, and we eventually asked the students how do they see are they satisfied with what we have done? Okay, and the survey just ended actually a few weeks ago, and for the very first time you're looking at this. So I'm just looking at the teaching and learning part. So during the survey, we asked them a couple of things. For example, teaching methods applied, whether it's online or face-to-face, quality of online teaching and learning materials, and then online teaching capabilities of lecturers. Lecturers, I apologize, there is a typo error there. Quality of online assessments, quality assessment methods applied, online support from academics, and obtaining obtaining timely online feedback. I'm so sorry about that. And then we found that for these variables, we achieved an astonishing of 85.8% for our students from the responses from our population. I'm still very interested. I'm still very, not to say shocked, but in a way I'm glad, because our students actually recognize that all these variables are important for us to really look at and how we should improve as an institution and all that, and moving towards hybrid teaching or hybrid learning approaches. Okay. So just now I was just talking about the success story. So you can actually just, if you want to read more, you can just scan the QR code. Otherwise, you can just go to Microsoft Edge and just type Microsoft Story MCKL. Then you will find the whole entire write-up and all that. Okay. Now, the next quadrant that I would like to share is the known unknown, which is certain but inexperienced. Okay. Now, this is something that I am quite worried of, because we were certain that technologies will play a part, as what Horizon report says, but we were inexperienced in certain ways that how we need to move forward. And because now, the challenges of higher education institutions is how do you incorporate the best of face-to-face and the best of online? And now we are in the middle. So I give a very simple example. We have done the extreme ends of both the face-to-face, which is the most traditional approach, and the extreme end of the online. And therefore, this two spectrum actually comes now to the middle. And I would like to share this approach called the PST framework. It's actually a framework to study the relationship between pedagogy, space, and technology, which aims to create spaces, both physical and virtual, to promote student engagement and learning outcomes. And I'm not going to go through the details of the framework, but you can actually read more online, and you can find that three important elements that you need to understand. You have the pedagogy, you have the technology, and you have the space. Remember that the pedagogy triumphs the technology, because if we are being dictated by the technology and you don't have any pedagogies, it will still fail. So you must have both spectrums or both elements together in order to ensure that you get a very successful there. Then you have the space and pedagogy, because for face-to-face, you need a good space of how to equip teaching to ensure that the teaching and learning process is effective, and as well as how the space interacts with the technology element and all that. And what we did was, just to share with you, we just completed the very first two technology-enhanced active learning classrooms, or TU classrooms, we say, and it's a space to support hybrid learning. So if you can see, it's not the traditional classroom. We took away a lot of things like tables and chairs, but we equip it with a whole one individual unit. And not only that, the seating itself for the students or learners, they are wheels, so you can set up different setup. We also had the whiteboards, because some lecturers, they want full whiteboard. They don't want to take it approach. So there is end to end. We didn't put it in just one, but we have another one so that they can actually write more and so on. And we also equip it with projection, Wi-Fi and everything. And I'm going to show you how this was very new. In fact, it was a few days ago, and I thought just want to share with all of you how it looks like. So we were in the midst of conducting our in-house training, and we thought we would like to pilot hybrid learning. Now, mind you, when we set up, we were just having no experience. We just want to do a typical setup. As you can see from this perspective, the classroom is actually collapsible, meaning you can open as one space or two spaces. And then the audience in the classroom or the TU classroom, they are observing our colleagues or those dialing in online, and those in the virtual, they are they are looking at our colleagues, those who are in the training online. And then after that, if you can see, we place our so-called console or the lecturer's console in the middle of the classroom, so that this is to allow a lot of interactions. And mind you, that console is mobile, so they have wheels, they can move around, so that you can do different setup and so on. So I'm just going to share with you, this is what happens at the back on another perspective. So you have the setup. You have the if you look on the picture on the left, the laptop, and then we had an additional webcam that we actually branch out to or focus to our colleagues. And not only that, the laptop itself with the screen projection online, and then you have the wireless mic. We found that a wireless mic helps because our lecturers at that point of time, our instructors, they want to walk around the classroom, as activities were taking actively. Teaching activities were taking in an active learning approach. So we found that a wireless mic helps. And the outcome of the recording, when we reviewed back, it was like, wow, even the virtual learners could hear the quality and all that. And I'm just going to show you this video that I'm not going to play sound because I think you can see that one of the instructors, she was walking towards the screen, and she was trying to listen to the questions and answers from our virtual participants. And at the same time, we found that for lecturers, for educators, you need to be very conscious and aware of how to moderate both the face-to-face or active, those in person in the classroom versus the online and so on, okay, and all that. Then, so that is what the findings are. So the key findings is to undertake effective hybrid teaching or learning, there are three processes that we have identified. First, we have to do it before. A lot of things that you need to undertake before. Understand the venue and setup capabilities, whether it's basic or standard. Requires careful planning. Maybe there will be some modifications of pedagogy, or even the curriculum is required. But that depends on subject matter and as well as the capability of the lecturer and instructor. We need to understand that they are also recognized that there are specific applications for assessments, annotation, etc. And of course, the continuous thing that we obtained was you need to continuously engage and communicate with the learners. How to do, because we are managing two types of modalities, the in-person and the virtual. Then during the process of the hybrid teaching, we need to have a separate webcam. We found that another webcam that eventually either faces the learner or instructor gives that whole presence different. The experience of the presence is there. So a good set of microphone, whether it's wireless or wired or even speakers, is important. Again, for students who are dialing in virtually, the lecturers may need to eventually communicate continuously through oral and chat, what to do, so on and so on, what need to take and everything. And we also understand that the instructors, we need to adjust to different instructional or facilitation approaches. So how do you do from face-to-face to online? The same activity that you want to do in person versus online, and how the online, you want to do breakout rooms and all that to face-to-face. And this is very important. You need to have that forethought ahead of time in order to ensure that the teaching, you will not take a lot of time to manage all this during the class, but it's supposed to be undertaken before the class. And last but not least, for educators, it is okay to fail. And I can tell you, we have failed. In certain ways, especially on the first day, because we had trainings on 2 days, we found that the first day there were a lot of challenges, mishaps and shortcomings, and we improved it on the second day. And when we reviewed back the recording on the second day, we said, wow, this has improved tremendously. And we even tabulated and correlated with our satisfaction, and with some of those attendees on the second day, they actually gave better experience rather than on the first day. But it is okay, because as part of the development, we need to understand the pain first before achieve the success and all that. All right. So the last but not least, I'm coming towards the end of this session, is the unknown. One of the things in many conferences I share is, will teachers or instructors or educators we are replaced with artificial intelligence? I'm just sharing a session or article from the Telegraph in Science in UK, and they say that apparently by Sir Anthony Sheldon, the former Vice Chancellor of University of Buckingham, said that robots may begin to replace us as part of the revolution in one-to-one learning. Intelligent machines, they are able to read or even understand the profile of our learners, getting all this AI, data, machine learning and everything, then they can actually eventually replace us. But my comment on this answer is no. We will never be replaced. Why? Because I personally still believe that education, we still need the human touch and human interaction. You can just pass on to robots and so on and all that. But the joy of interacting with another human, even another fellow human, is different. The experience is very different and so on. So I'm going to end my slide with just a reflection on this. So we have 21st century learners, but taught by 20th century teachers, but in 19th century classrooms. So it's anonymous and all that. So with that, that's all my presentation. Thank you very much for this. Hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Adrian, don't run. I'm sure we have lots of questions. We truly enjoyed that because you are the practitioner. We are technologists trying to pretend to be teaching. So,
okay, we would like to open the questions to the participants first, the attendees. Any questions from the attendees? Please post it in the chat below.
Suddenly, everyone is so quiet.
Yeah. Okay. But to sum up, I think it's really a very different kind of presentation that we used to get, in aMS and all that. Like what I said earlier, is that really the experiential and contextual kind of sharing from people who are in the heat of all the actions, especially now in this endemic kind of situation. Okay, I truly enjoy this, and myself actually I have a lot of questions, but actually we have no time. Okay, there's no time. And then and Adrian, I noticed you flash a slide again that 20th 19th century teachers and classrooms and all those things. Yeah, that slide actually I use a lot actually in some of those consulting work that we do.
Yeah.
Okay, and interestingly, Adrian, when he started, he mentioned something like he also like to share from the educators and students' experience. What then can some of the things that developers, the product innovators can incorporate into to allow them to do certain things better. But interestingly, when we are doing our consult, because we are doing some digital transformation kind of things for some schools and institutions, we come from the angle that how industry sees academia.
Yeah.
Okay, and what we people for that as employees and people that's working out there, what do you feel about the education, and what will we conversely thinks that the educators should be focusing on?
Okay.
So it's quite a good.
No problem. It's okay.
So it's very good, eh?
Yeah.
So before you answer that question, maybe there's an interesting question which I thought was very true from Mr. Jaya Balan, and he was asking how much would it be to set up a digital classroom like the one you showed just now, because he was wondering, hey, can small school even get into it?
Okay, we were very experimental to answer Mr. Jayabalan's question. It was very experimental. That's why I said the conference was so timely that I could share the findings of what we encountered this whole week. And it just happened that the two trainings came at the same time, and I said, okay, I would share this, what we have gone through and all that. We found that a lot of the devices was very basic. We could, most importantly, as I've said, you need a webcam, additional webcam. If you're using a laptop, you have a camera already, but your camera is not static in a way. It's static in a way. So we thought that if we shift the whole entire camera with another additional webcam, and that webcam, the lecturers can just turn around here and there, and they want, it makes a difference in many ways, because some of those virtual attendees, they like to see the presenters, and when they see the instructors facilitating the session, it was something that they said that, oh, I could learn better now, and all that. Then the second thing, we also realized that a good mic, because you can create the best PowerPoint, you can show the best video. But when we reviewed the very first day of the training, the setup, we failed in many ways because we thought that the video triumphs everything. Virtual attendees will attend and they could get a full screen of what you're sharing. You see, because when the lecturer presents, they share screen. But the face-to-face, they will see the projection. We thought that that was the main element. And then we realized that the absence of the microphone, we thought we relied just on the laptop's microphone, it failed. And what we did was, I was lucky that I had a set of wireless microphone. We just plug in on the second day of the training, and mind you, the effects was mind-blowing. We felt that the audio was the most critical element, that it has to be resolved before the video. So for educators and teachers or instructors, the audio triumphs everything. So if you don't get a good mic, definitely your students will start to lose their focus on you. So on that, okay? And the third part is the mobility. Because we understand some lecturers, they like to stand in front, static, and they're not going to move. Some lecturers, when they do the face-to-face, they want to go around, because when you have group work and all that. And we found that the lecturers has to create breakout rooms for the virtual attendance, and then after that, for the face-to-face. Then when everybody comes back, after they finish their discussion, they come back, then the lecturer also, or the instructor also, must know how to facilitate the face-to-face. So we saw the model or the formula of the instructors having one session of face-to-face, facilitating one in person, and then they pass the mic to them to present, and then they could, so that the virtual attendees can hear, and then the virtual participants also presented, so they managed to share screen. So we found that whole facilitation instructional, right, was something that was new, because all the while it's either the two ends of the extreme, the spectrum. And then we told the lecturers that they came to the conclusion that all this needs advanced planning. And we were very happy because our lecturers, the three lecturers that conducted that workshop that day, they were very experienced. They even had one moderator. They appointed one moderator online, and then the lecturer in person, and then the lecturer eventually in face-to-face they were concentrating, and then the other lecturer was focusing on the the chats or the questions that the virtual attendees. So for educators, don't get overwhelmed of it. If you are doing the class alone, you are teaching alone, it is fine, and you do it as you go along, and there will be so many things that you will learn. So it is okay. And once you get familiar with the modalities or switching of one modality to another, you will definitely triumph. So that's my message to Jaya Balan's question and all that.
You didn't cover that magic word, cost. What is the most expensive thing?
We found that everything was about below 100 ringgit or USD $20-25, around that range.
For a good microphone?
For a good microphone, we got it less than $10, USD $10.
Wow.
Yeah. The webcam also, I think it was about USD $15. And then we need a tripod. We realized that the tripod also, we need that. It was about only $5 or $8 USD dollars for the benefit of any audience outside of Malaysia. And we total up, it's about maybe about $120. Oh, no, not that. $80, sorry. Yeah.
What about your
the most expensive are actually your chairs with the rollers.
Okay, the classroom itself, the cost itself is very different, because we had to customize the chairs, and then we equip it and all that. But just to let all of you know, the room, the teal classroom that you saw, is the very first prototype. The next one that we will be retrofitting and refurbishing will be a different setup, which I will not be able to share because we are still in the midst of planning and executing that. Once maybe next year or the year after next, we're looking at target of December once we're done, but maybe who knows, if I got opportunity to share and you can see the classrooms that we set up, very different, because we don't want the same replicate, we don't want to replicate the same setup, we want to share with everything and all that. Yeah.
How did the chair make a difference?
Because now, yeah, sorry, somebody asked me.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm a full-time teacher, and my students are between the age of 11 to 15, and I teach in a private school. So I'm thinking about the hybrid learning. For students at home, their challenge right now is unstable connectivity. So if 50% of my students are at home, which is the MOE's mandate, then the thing is, how do I engage the ones at home with unstable connectivity? That's the challenge.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that question. To the audience that asked that question, my answer to you is perhaps maybe consider asynchronous. You may want to pre-record certain videos, like what one of our colleagues did, Elizabeth. She pre-recorded some of the videos, but she did not release it during class. And she only released it after class as a form of supplementary. And eventually, I was also known that some of the schools, not MCKL per se, but some education institutions, they release it and share it through social media platforms or instant messaging apps like WhatsApp or Telegram. And they share it as a video so that the students can watch and all that. Don't trap into dogma that no Wi-Fi, you cannot attend class. And remember, when you create videos, or I call it learning objects, those objects are reusable in many ways. So don't see this as like an additional burden. See this as a learning journey and how you can do. For Shari here, shortcut Shari, is there no, sorry. Okay, that was a different question. So you may host this repository or learning objects in either SharePoint or even how do you call that? A Sway. So you can host that and the students can watch when they don't have that. Don't give up, because we found that we're having such opportunities. It gives you a different way of how to deliver your class and still ensure that students are not left out in many ways. So we have learned that, because we had some students in the beginning, you know, all the lectures that come, we told them that they don't have internet access, no worries. And I know my lecturers, some of them, they pre-record everything. And imagine after one cycle, right, they pre-recorded all that already. And, you know, they have all these learning objects and it's reusable. Yeah.